Who do you know that's going to build your product at the highest level? All of these companies need content creators. They need influencers.
The content game and tokenized content is going to be huge.
How do we solve the problem of completion? How do we gamify it? How do we tokenize it? How do we reward people to succeed? I believe blockchain and technology, there is companies out there doing that.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where I have conversations with people doing at least $1 million in their business, many times a lot more. Now, I've got something new for you today. We've got two people on the call. Usually it's just one at a time. And we're making this happen because these guys come in pairs. Now, here's what I mean by that. I had met Don a few years ago. This is pre-pandemic stuff when I was working on some promotional stuff for some, pretty famous speakers. And he was representing someone very special. And this person, if you saw him, you can't unsee it. And in the same way, he was able to impact hundreds of thousands of people's lives. And I've recently reconnected with him, kind of by accident, and we got him onto the podcast. He's joined by Katya. So this is Don Hayley. Katya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. I would love it if we could just spend 1 or 2 minutes. Give us a rough idea of what is it you guys do? What's your business?
Cool. Yeah, so our primary business right now is Web3 marketing consulting, where we help brands integrate into the Web3 space or curtail their message in the Web3 space, grow their following, grow their engagement, their community. Katya, I'll let you highlight the social media component.
So yeah, I own a social media agency and we work together with Don, where I help him with a strategy for social media, content creation for Web3 businesses, projects, and we're also actually both NLP certified trainers and coaches. And yeah.
That's amazing. So you've got Web3, you've got social media, you've got coaching, neuro-linguistic programming. That's amazing. Mix of those skills and those, business models put together makes you definitely a powerful contender for, building a world-class business. Now, I think I know, and I think most of the people in the audience think they know, but just as a refresher, what does Web3 actually mean from an expert like you? How would you describe it?
At its core, right, Web3 means the tokenization of the internet. Decentralization, trustless, permissionless. The best way I can explain it, right? So right now, Google or Instagram, they control the traffic. They control the content that you see, right? In the future, that will be owned by the users, by the nodes, by the decentralized network. So the way I explain it, everything goes into a web, right? Right now, everything flows through our current giants, and it is regulated or controlled and manipulated in that way. Into the future, we have this tokenized, decentralized ecosystem that is owned by the players that are in it, right? Does that kind of give you clarity?
Yeah, I think so. So what you're saying is, like, right now, for example, Google and Facebook and all these platforms, they got huge servers. They can 100% control the data. Everybody has to log in, and they're the gatekeepers, right? You're saying in the future, people connect with each other without the gatekeepers. But then who actually builds the technology that everybody uses? Like, for example, Facebook invests billions of dollars in R&D to make an experience that people will want to stay in and use. So I'm wondering, like, who's going to build the infrastructure, and how is it going to, if it's all like peer-to-peer without a central server, who's got that kind of money to build this?
Well, we're already seeing it, right? We have like the Ethereum network, and they're building smart contracts on top of it, and ecosystems are being built on top of that. They did just move the proof of stake model, which technically isn't as decentralized as we'd want it, but it's definitely a leap into the future. A cool project that I'm working with now that is looking to strive to actually create true decentralization in Web3 is called Nillion. Nillion is a really high level, very complex node network that is striving to create that new decentralized future.
Awesome. Now I want to give Katya a turn to speak here. Katya, what is your involvement? What's your expertise when it comes to all this stuff we just talked about, decentralized networks, Web3, and things like that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm extremely passionate and excited for this technology just because it's a huge innovation and era that we're moving into. And just witnessing all the technologies such as AI being integrated into Web3 and things like that. So first of all, I'm really excited to see this and be a part of it. But also what we do professionally with Don together is I help with social media strategy for those companies that are in Web3. Because it's still such a new concept, I guess, and a new technology, a lot of people have misconceptions or misunderstanding about it. So really developing a content strategy that explains it in a very simple way so that the audience can actually connect with what this brand is doing or the business is doing is what I kind of help with. So building that content strategy that is, a lot of it is education based for a third grader that could really understand what that means.
Amazing. Now, if you guys ever feel like I'm talking to the audience here, like this is like kind of stuff that doesn't matter. It's kind of techie, kind of geeky, doesn't matter to you. Here's what I want to say is that every person who has been the forerunner of social media and predicting what the tech trends were going to be, talking about the Gary V's, right? The Seth Godins. These are the guys who also are understanding that this is the next wave and they're investing heavily into this. So if you want to still be in business, not if, but when Web3 becomes ubiquitous, then you're going to want to listen up. Katya, you really perked my ears there when you said you help people who are in Web3 to develop a social media strategy. So what I'm saying is people come to you, Don, and you help them with the actual technology part to actually start something, right? And then Katya, you come in and you help to promote that through social media. Is that right? Is that kind of the relationship?
That's close, yeah. I mean, she definitely comes in and helps with the social. So my main thing is the marketing and like the CMO overall, high level go-to-market strategy. I do recommend technology partners and I developed a network over the last couple of years that I've been in it. And it takes a lot of vetting, takes a lot of trial and error to work with, specifically on the tech side, because it's very complex. And who do you trust? Who do you know that's going to build your product at the highest level, right? So I've been really good at forming partnerships and finding people to network with and collaborate with for my clients and help them scale.
Amazing. So you're the connector. You're the guy who knows the people who know the things that will get it done, right?
Yeah.
So let's circle to like looking at this through the lens of a business owner. Let's say somebody's making between $5 and $10 million a year, which a lot of my audience are. And some people probably even got to 10K a month because they're just getting started. Maybe they have a course or coaching. Don, if I were to come to you and say, hey, how do I make sure I don't get left behind? How do I start implementing Web3 technology in my business? Where do you start that conversation?
Yeah, so at first I would say, what's the business, right? Because just like pioneers, not every business needs Web3 in it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just explaining to a real estate guy, yeah, it's cool to tokenize it. For example, it's cool to tokenize the real estate. However, the real estate is still going to get paid in USD. So if you sell these NFTs and that have equity in this real estate property through a smart contract, very cool technology and is futuristic, and I do believe it is going there, right? But right now, there's a gap in the sense where, okay, I own this NFT, I own a percentage of these royalties, but now this investment property is getting paid in dollars. So what does this investment property have to do? They have to convert it to crypto to pay you your royalties, right? So it's just like there's still kind of a gap there. But again, you want to be ahead of the curve, right? Instead of behind, right? That's where all the opportunistic opportunities happen. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, not every business needs it yet.
Okay. What kind of business are you seeing being able to benefit the most at this point? I see Katya's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Katya.
And you can feel free to just interject anything because this
Yeah.
is a conversation. Just imagine we're sitting around, we got some drinks, we're relaxing, and we're hanging out. So feel free to just cut
come
in.
with drinks. I didn't have a drink.
Oh, you just had I saw the bottle. You're chugging it, man.
It's nothing too exciting there, I think. Yeah, so just like Don said, it's not yet massively adopted to the point where like every business should pivot there. What comes to mind to me is for sure music artists. It's one of the things. And the problem that they're facing is usually they're signed with a label, right? Like early on. And unfortunately, as time goes by, it could be 5, 10, 20, 30 years, they will never fully own the right to their music, and label's gonna take a big portion out of this. So what the Web3 technology allows to do is to give the rights 100% to the music owner, right? And then the smart contract can be written in a way where however much they sell of those records, the music artist will get this certain percentage like for the
And
whole
because
life.
it's tokenized, you could actually track every single time it's played,
Exactly.
right? And no matter how many times it gets copied, you're still gonna get that
Right. So
tracking.
it's
That's
very
amazing.
transparent and it protects the artist. So it's
Hmm.
not just music artists, but also artists who create art and things like that. So it really just gives the control back into the creator's hands. If that makes sense.
So there is this thing, like a lot of my clients, we create video content for them, and sometimes it goes crazy viral. But we found that every time that happens, let's say on my client's account, there's 14 million views organically, right? And so we're looking at that. So that's amazing. But then when we search the name of the video, somebody else had put it up too, and it had like 80 million. And like, so these like social media content, would this solve that issue where you'd actually, even if other people try to make it their own, you'd still be able to track it as yours?
Yeah, that's where the technology is going, right? Back to when I said trustless and permissionless, right? The permissionless aspect, you can revoke that data, that access. Right now, you don't own the data when you upload it to a social media agency, right? You give away that rights and that ownership of that content on Instagram, whatever, right? To answer your previous question, gaming, I would say gaming is it's 3 times bigger than all of entertainment combined, right? So if you think about movies, music, everything combined, gaming is 3 times bigger as an entertainment sector. And it just makes sense. Kids are already being pre-programmed in Fortnite to have game economies like NFT avatars, crypto. You see what I mean? Like the evolution of blockchain gaming is going to be revolutionary. You're seeing it in every big NFT project, Bored Ape, Cool Cats. All of the biggest NFT projects are integrating gaming. CloneX, Nike just bought Artifact, which is owned, it's the CloneX NFTs. So it's like all these things are metaverse, gaming. That's really where like the true alpha and like the true next wave is going to be for gaming companies. But then think about your channel's social media or content, right? So all of these companies need content creators, they need influencers. So like looking for those avenues to play in Web3, if that's the kind of content, if you're a content creator, that would be a good solution or opportunity to scale that business from 10 to 6 figures a year, maybe even 7, depending on your level.
Amazing. And would you say that, so if you're in content creation, let's say you have a decent following, should you be looking for Web3, like gaming type of applications that are looking for brand ambassadors? Is that the idea that you have?
Yeah, gaming, any product. So these companies have insane funding, right? They're getting
Yeah.
crazy funded. If you're able to bring value and you're able to, because a lot of companies also lack good content creation, good content delivery and strategy. They have awesome tech, they have awesome ability to impact, you know what I mean? They have really cool stuff, but they don't know how to go to market with it. And that's the problem and the gap that we're attempting to solve is like, okay, you have this amazing technology, but how do you get this to the users? How do you get users to buy it or understand it? Because it's so complex, right? So how do you take the complexity and bring it to simple, educate? Because Web3 in itself is like complex. I'm trying to keep it simple and clear for your audience, but like at the same time, it's a very complex industry, right? So when you have a complex industry, you have to, like Katya said earlier, 3rd grade level, 4th grade level, really understand in lamest terms that this is the future, and how can you find a way to put your business or add value to other businesses in the industry already and create impact.
And from a social media perspective, Katya, how are you finding the best ways to promote these type of businesses right now? What's working?
Yeah, so it's a learning process still for us because we onboard different types of clients that have completely different business models, but they're all somehow in Web3. So it's a very unique strategy for every single business that we work with. However, what is in common is the education based content is basically just educating them no matter what their business in. If they have Web3 component to it, we would normally start with explaining what is that and how this model is actually beneficial versus their competitors who are still in the Web2, let's say. So it's really educating them on that, and then also strategically finding other UGC content that can promote that on their networks as well. So there's really a unique approach to every single one of them.
That makes total sense. Now, I want to ask a more specific question because I think a large part of my audience they're coaches, course creators, and small business owners, like 5 million-ish. So have you seen a great example of somebody in that industry, course creator, coach, or like live events business, implement Web3 and do well with it?
You're going to.
So I'm guessing you brought on a client who you're working on building that out for. Is that right?
Not necessarily. Well, I mean, so I'm building that for my personal brand and Katya's as well. So we're going to be tokenifying info products or gamifying and tokenizing info products and all of that in the next Q2, Q3 is the timeline that we're going to be releasing these. So I haven't seen that yet, though.
So you might be the first one, or there might be 10 other people working in secret and doing something similar, as far as we know, right? Because that wave and that technology is coming. So without having to, kill me after you tell me, what can you say about this project?
Yeah, so I said the main issue for current info products, right, is completion at its core, right? Like, what is it? 90% of courses don't get completed.
Yeah, I had like a 15% completion rate on my course, and when I complained to somebody else who's also in course creation, they're like, "That's really good. Mine is 8." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, and I love the purpose and mission behind info, right? We're here to educate the planet because we weren't educated properly. Like, we were educated in a system that was, robot mechanic driven, right? Like, we were meant to be like factory workers. If you went to school in America, you weren't meant to have a creative entrepreneur lifestyle, right? That's why I love info, and that's why that's my passion and is drawn towards that, is because I want to help educate and add value to people that, I grew up in a poor family. I grew up in a family that I went through all public school. I had to pay for my own college. I did that whole journey and I had to find my way here, just navigating the path. And ultimately, the main thing about info, like I said, is it's not being completed. So how do we solve the problem of completion? How do we gamify it? How do we tokenize it? How do we reward people to succeed, right? And I believe blockchain and technology, there is companies out there doing that. I do know of some influencers that have maybe added NFTs or attempting to add NFTs and stuff like that. But I do believe like that is going to be the future of education and monetizing or rewarding people. Like, because if you think about info products, right there, and I'll let Katya go next. I'm not trying to take all the screen time, but people are making a lot of money, right? Like 7 figures a month, 8 figures, like I see a lot of people making a lot of money in info. So why can't, there's a portion of that could easily be added back to a reward system that is tokenized and engaged and like people are winning and et cetera. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. They're, the people who I bring on the show, some are, just getting to 7 figures, but there are people who are doing 7 figures a month. Easy.
Yeah.
I just spoke with a friend of mine and he's doing 4 million a month US.
Yeah.
And 80% profits. So
high margins.
There's definitely, very high margins there. Katya, you're about to say something.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to what Don was saying is the same exact. Yeah, the problem is that people don't complete the courses that they buy. So, and it's great because you as a coach or as a creator of the content make money. However, it probably makes you feel a certain way, like, why do they not complete it? Like, am I bad or like, right? So adding those strategy to engage your audience and to gamify it is, I think, going to be for sure the future, how Web3 could be integrated in info products. And it would be like, imagine you have the Oculus and then you're able to actually participate in that and interact maybe with even some avatars inside. So there is so much that could go into this. It's just really up to your imagination. But I am really excited to see this in our lifetimes.
That's super awesome. And I will be researching more on this and see. I don't think that there's a direct application for my business right now, but as soon as there is, and if Don, you can prove out your model, then you're probably going to have 10,000 people asking you to help them with theirs. And hopefully you'll have that ready. Let me ask you this. Now, this is a kind of it's a new technology, obviously. Low understanding, right? It's kind of like trying to explain the internet to someone in the early 2000s, right? Most people are just like, what? And a lot of people thought it was a fad. And obviously it wasn't, right? When Steve Jobs came out with the touchscreen phone, they're just like, A lot of people thought it was a fad. Some people thought it was revolutionary. Now the world has changed. Now, do you feel we're at that point right now with Web3?
I think we are getting there, but we're not there just yet. It's gonna take some big killer app that has to be created that everyone is gonna hear about, the same way like everyone heard about ChatGPT, right? Which was obviously a huge technology and is the fastest app to gain such a huge audience.
1 million followers in 3 hours, I believe. I mean, 1
Yeah,
million
it was
registered
something
members in 3 hours.
insane. It is.
I'm going to have to fact check that, but that's what I
I
heard from
think
somebody.
it's 100 million users in 1 month or something like that.
Yeah,
which
it was
is
ridiculous.
huge, and
They
it
broke
is,
all the records for everything.
yeah. So I think the first one was the WhatsApp that gained followers so much, not the followers but users in such a short period of time. So ChatGPT broke that record, and so now everyone is talking about AI and what are the possibilities of using that in their businesses. So it's going to take something like that in Web3 that everyone is going to hear about it and be like, oh my God, wow, like what is this? I have to know about this. Right now, it's very niche down. It's very popular and obviously in gaming. Crypto is part of it. Whoever is invested in crypto and stuff like that and NFTs. And I think it's slowly beginning to get introduced to traditional businesses and artists and stuff like that. So I think we're not there quite yet, but I feel it's gonna be sometime soon.
Yeah.
I'd love to pivot and go ahead, Don.
I had a response for that. Yeah. So we're at the cusp of unpopular opinion, but regulation, right? So when things are regulated, big companies are able to get in. They're able to insure products. They're able to scale. Then once big companies are in, they're able to dominate the market. Then you're going to see, the news narrative change, because right now the narrative isn't pro, right? It's negative. But once you see the big companies in and it's pro, right, the agenda changes, the content around it changes, like then the adoption will come after that, right? So it's an unpopular take, but it's truth, right? We see it over and over again, right? So
I mean, as long as we're paying taxes and there's police and there's politicians, then they want a piece of the pie. They want to be in the game, and then they'll open up the gates. I totally understand that.
yeah.
And I think that it's unpopular for anarchists. People who think that I shouldn't have to report to anybody, right? And that's what Bitcoin and all these things are. They're the perfect anarchist vehicle to do what they want to do. And I'm not saying anarchist in a bad way. I think anarchy is a whole like belief system that people have, but it's somewhere in between. You get a little bit of your little rebel self, you put that in your back pocket, and then you got your suit self, and then you got to merge those two together. Here's where I'm seeing something that would be super valuable to kind of pick your brains on. You've got something that's a little hard to explain. A lot of people don't know why they would want to pay money to get your help on this. So from a marketing perspective, how are you finding the best way to get people to understand why they need to pay you to help them with Web3? Like, could you tell me a bit about your strategy around that? Because I'm imagining there's people out there who are going to be installing a new type of roofing that is hard to explain, but totally worth their money if you could explain it, right? Maybe there's a new type of, law that needs to get implemented in their business because of a new policy, and they need to explain it. So a lot of people have kind of abstract things that need to get explained in order to make money. How do you market this kind of niche, new, techie, nerdy thing?
We built a multi-7-figure business on like handshakes, like word of mouth, right? So really not much advertising on that sense, but a lot of referrals. Once you do good in Web3, it goes around, right? Like people recommend you, refer you. The main thing you're solving is how to build a community and how to position your brand to be a top product or premier product, right? So a lot of people need that in general, even in Web2, right? Like most people, marketing is one of the harder things to do, right? And build a community and evangelize a community around a certain product or service that you're offering. And we're able to do that through cool different strategies, different content marketing, community growing, stuff like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. And you're 100% spot on. I've hired multiple people in the past, And the ones that were the easiest to hire, or when I say hire, it's like contract with or work with, are the ones when a friend of mine, a trusted friend, says, hey, this person helped me make X amount of money. And then that's, numbers don't lie. Well, nowadays they do maybe, but instead of saying they're a nice person, they do great work, they're a hard worker, I really like their personality, those are all like great, maybe they'd be a good friend. But if they say, I worked with them for 3 months, invested 100K, and came out with a $5 million, profit during that period, then I'd be like, where's his phone number? And I like, right? And then, so I think that's why a lot of people, when they create content, especially coaches, they like to talk about not their success so much, but their client's success, because that gets those referrals in pretty quickly. Katya, how about you? From a social media perspective, how are you taking this fluffy, nerdy idea and bringing it down to the everyday layman like me?
Yeah, I mean, Don is the closer here, so he's great at finding opportunities.
Is that his middle name? Don, the closer Hayley?
I mean, look at my wife.
Oh, whoa. Don, point taken. So wait, you said wife, not fiance. Like you guys are like.
Yeah, we're married. Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely a closer. So yeah, so he basically handles that side of things. He brings people in, he picks people that he wants to work with. We actually get a lot of requests or, interest to work with us, but he's very selective and strategic about who he wants to work with and who he wants to associate his name with. So I just let him do that, and I support him in his decisions, and I just help him with whoever he brings. But we normally obviously talk together and we see, do you think we can help this person? How can we get creative with this? When it sounds so taken, so boring, we kind of find ways to make it work.
Okay. Now, are there any specific strategies you can share? Because I know that you are the expert when it comes to social media marketing. What is working nowadays, Katya, on across any platform, and what are you seeing that's failing? What mistakes are people making that they should avoid?
Yeah, and I would just probably speak not about Web3, but in general, social media. The people that I mostly work with have personal brands or businesses that they want to promote. And I would say the mistake that a lot of people are making, because I deal with people and they have businesses and they want to promote their business. So the number one mistake they're making is they're always behind the scenes. They don't want to be seen. They just want to talk about their business from a business page. And what they're missing on is the personal connection, because people buy from people and they want to connect with who you are. They want to know who the CEO is and why they're doing what they're doing. Like, what is their favorite animal, and all those things. That's where they connect with them. And so showing up as yourself, being authentic, and I believe that people on social media are there for 3 reasons: being entertained, motivated, inspired, or learn something. So if you hit all of those 3 points, you are gonna win, because when you share something valuable and establish yourself as a thought leader in your industry, and then people are going to be looking forward to your content, as well as that builds trust and credibility if you're planning on selling something later on, right? And then also being entertaining, just being yourself. If post a video of you dancing with your dog, or just something fun about yourself. And then of course quotes and motivational things like that. That's a really, really hot content, at least on Instagram and I believe Facebook as well. Is when people share, that brings more people to your page, and that just all of this organic growth comes in. And then that's when you're in a really good position to start promoting your products, but not over promote, not post about it every day, but be very strategic about it. So have a strategy in mind for your content based on what you're selling. And if you're just looking to build audience around you, I would say hit that 3 things: educate, entertain, and motivate.
I love it. And what if, I run a media agency, and most people I work with, they love being in front of the camera. They've done large stages. Don, some of the names that I've worked with, because that's how we ran into each other, is through some mutual clients. But every now and then you get someone who doesn't want to be on camera, or they don't think it's worth it. They just want to hire somebody on Fiverr or something. Tell me about that. How do you deal with that? And what's your suggestion on people who don't like being on camera?
We make them.
Don the closer, right? Comes in.
No, I mean, fortunately, I haven't came across somebody who's like, no, absolutely do not want to be on social media. People who are shy, it's okay. Like, but we also do scripts, like for when we make reels and things like that. They don't necessarily have to like sit there and talk, because some people can get really awkward and it's just a torture for them. So we just advise them, hey, just make a reel like this, point here and here and here, and we'll make it entertaining, and so that's like one of the strategies.
We also have models, right? So being NLP trained, we add a different level of content creation, right? So we have some tactics and tricks that can help them stay confident, or reframe the meaning they're giving it to, or models that just give them comfortability in creating the content. And if they don't want to, then there's generally someone in their company that does, right? So it's like,
Well, Don, how about this? I mean, I've done NLP training too.
yeah.
But for the viewers who have no experience, what NLP is and how it can help, could you give us an example? Like, let's say I'm your client and I'm just like, yeah, let's just hire someone on Fiverr to read that script. What would you say to me?
So you're saying in the sense that they don't want to do the content.
Yeah,
Like,
they
we
feel
want
it's
to
not
motivate
worth their
them.
time. They're the CEO and they think that they could just hire somebody, an intern or somebody to do it instead of them. But in your perspective, you're just like, wait, your name is on the door and people will trust you more, like you should be the...
Yeah, generally, the CEO would be the face. I mean, don't really have much pushback around that. I would say, we just give a few tips, right? First thing comes to mind is like peripheral vision versus focal vision, right? If you stay in focal, you're focused on the details, you're focused internally, you're inside, right? So focal is like this, peripheral vision's like this, right? So I'm just saying delivering the content, and then you give them models. So like the format system. So it's like an influence model. Make sure you're hitting all of the ways to capture an audience. Um, and then, the scripts, we just layer in different language patterns and ways to create content that make them feel comfortable. And if they're not easily flowing and they're not easily creating content, like I said, there's generally somebody that would on the team. We just haven't really run into like too much issues with that.
Yeah, I think in the US, what's the famous saying? Rich and famous, right? And that's what ultimately, I think 90% of people there want to be rich and or famous. So I think I run into this issue more with non-Americans, where they're just like they don't want to be famous. They just want to live a very, very private life. Everybody wants to be wealthy to some degree, whether they admit it or not. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And I found for me, there were some people who the way that I worked with them was like, look, you're the expert. You're the best at this. You have the best product on the market. How would you feel if there was somebody with an inferior product who takes your customer's money and gives them something that's worse than yours? And they're just like, crap, I would hate that. And I'm like, and in order for you to be the one providing the best quality of service and or product, they need to see your face, and you need to win their trust. And they're just like, all right, I'm on it, and just they get moving. And then like you said, frameworks are everything. What advice do you have for people who are seeing Web3? It's a buzzword, they know it's something, and they want to know if their business is ready for that. Is there some like 2 or 3 questions they can ask themselves about if it's worth it to pursue that?
If it's worth it to pursue.
At this point, right? Like a lot of listeners are probably curious, like, hey, can I use it in my business? Is this something I should invest in?
Yeah, I would say do your research always. Is there competitors? The first thing I would say, do your market research. Is there competitors already doing it? Is it something that can be done, right? Like I see a lot of real estate plays happening. I see a lot of technology plays, a lot of gaming plays. I do see a lot of opportunities in info content potentially. I do like the idea of what Katya said, the artists. So artists being able to own their IP and their art, that's a big breakthrough, right? Before you were only able to become a famous artist and get funded and get, those contracts through these record labels, but then you pretty much sell away all your IP and you don't have really much of a future if you're not with them, right? because they turn off the machine, the AI, the bots. A lot of these listens are fake anyways. Like you go on Spotify, it's all botted shit. Even the biggest guys, Drake, all of them. So
I had no idea. I didn't even think of that.
yeah, and I know people in the music industry that said everything's just fluff, really. I mean, they have fans,
Wow.
but like, you know what I mean? I know it's being recorded, so I'm not going to say much. But overall, it's just like, okay, now these artists have power, right? Now they have the ability to get funded. Now they have the ability to drop an NFT. I think Rihanna, she just did an NFT of the first song she sung at the Super Bowl and gave away her royalties there, right? So, I mean, I'm sure that's owned by Rock Nation and all that, but I'm just saying, like, that's the power of an independent artist, right? So the power of independent artists, now they can get 100% of their funding and release their music and, you know, be able to get out there depending on their strategy.
So maybe what we're seeing is that once the big artists start picking up on this, then it'll trickle down to everybody else who's aspiring artists, and that technology, people will find ways to implement it
It's already
at
happening.
whatever level
Yeah.
they're at.
Yeah, it's already happening. So.
And do you see a social, like, how do you see social media changing based on this? Like, let's say that there is a decentralized YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. Like, it will, but then is everybody gonna have a different experience because there's no central platform?
I don't know. That's something that we're gonna have to see because algorithm and all of that, like who determines that? So that's kind of like, and also content moderation. As much as we don't want our content to be moderated, but like we do, because there's also a lot of other things that I'm sure we do not want to see. So there is still a lot to it, and then there's going to be some regulations that has to somehow come in. But I think the content game and tokenized content is going to be huge because, just like you said, you know, if your client's video got posted on somebody else's pages and got a triple views than your client, you should be getting some credit, right? So I think that's an interesting approach for sure.
You know how Joe Rogan, he got that $100 million contract with Spotify to, you know, move his podcast there exclusively, right? I'd imagine that every creator on any platform will be able to move their stuff from one platform to another because they have all the tokenized content. Like, and I kind of see it more like real life. Let's just say like a school cafeteria. Like there's the cool kids table, there's the nerds table, and you can move yourself from one corner to another. You know, there's the jocks, there's the cheerleaders, right? And take everything you've got with you very quickly. And you could, and at the same time, I think you could be in multiple places at once. So it's going to be more like loose camps of, and that would be like the platform, and wherever your media is, that's still yours. And you could just move it, you know, from one to another. And that would be amazing to have that type of control.
In a second, right? Like you're seeing cross-border payments, right? Like you're in Japan. I could send you 100 grand right now. I can literally grab my phone, send you 100 grand right now. You can pick up your phone. You would have
Sure, I'm ready. Let's do it.
you would have it.
I don't believe you. Can you prove it to me?
You would have it within seconds or minutes, right? Like you send that through Swift system. It's going to take 3 to 5 days. Like, you know, all this bullshit. You have to go in. Like, it's just like ridiculous, right? So the same thing with information or data, your data, right? Like I sign my wallet into a website or an info product or whatever, right? Like my wallet is now connected. If I don't want that to be connected anymore and I don't want you to have my data, I just pull it back and it's a click of a button. So that's the future. When I said trustless and permissionless and decentralized, like that's the future of what these social media giants are going to have to integrate. Like as the users demand it more, as they get more used to the technology, because we're already seeing it. Like there's a lot of data issues. We're seeing a lot of manipulation in data, a lot of censorship around data and like things in the media and all this stuff. And you know, these guys, it happens in decades, right? It doesn't happen overnight, but you got to be able to see trends, right? We're already seeing CBDCs being, I'm not getting deep into this topic, but CBDCs are being tested in almost every country around the world. What is that? It's a digital currency. It's a central bank digital currency, right? So what is Bitcoin? A digital currency. I was in Albania with Capital Club. It's one of the masterminds I'm part of. And we had one of the central bankers speak at the event. And the banker said, one, which I thought was cool, Bitcoin is money, which is legit to hear. And then two, that these currencies are coming within the next 6 years. They're going to be everywhere, right? Like fully integrated, etc. So this is like the digitization or electrification of money, right? Like we had the gold standard, we had to turn in the gold for the paperbacks. Now we have paperbacks, they're going to get turned in for the digital currencies, right? So it's Web3, all of that's part of the same like ecosystem and idea, right? Like we're seeing XRP underlying technology of all these banks, right? Like it's potentially going to replace the SWIFT system. They haven't fully said it yet, but if you look into XRP and like all these ISO 2022 technology tokens, they're all government approved to be digital currencies and the underlying technology. So it's like it's all happening. It's kind of not just like anything, right? Everything you think that's happening is usually happening over here, but they're like saying, hey, look over here. So not getting too deep
Yeah.
into that stuff, but yeah.
No, I think we could geek out on this for a long time because, as you know, with crypto scams, there's been a million of those. Logan Paul got called out majorly, big time, not long ago for that, along with SBF, and that's just in the the digital currency space. And Web3 is much more than that. What are the danger things that we should be looking for?
Always educate yourself, right? Like always educate yourself on anything you're doing, especially when you're dealing financial products, right? Leaving money in exchanges, I don't recommend that to anybody that I introduced to Web3, right? Just exchanges, you don't own your crypto, right? Like you own your crypto if it's in a wallet, non-custodial wallet. All of these centralized exchanges, even Binance, right? You don't own your crypto. Like if it goes down, like I love Binance. Binance is huge, right? The power players in the space. But if it went down, I mean, most of crypto will go down. But like at the same time, you don't own your crypto. The same thing you're seeing in FTX, right? All those people have their funds locked up. I know people had 7 figures, 8 figures in crypto just locked up. They don't have access to it. You know what I mean? It's just like, right. But if you had yeah, exactly. But if you had a Trezor and it was linked to your MetaMask or Exodus wallet or whatever, at its core basic, and it's a very simple thing to do. People just don't think that it seems complex, but it's not, right? I mean, MetaMask is in my browser. I have a hard wallet that links to my MetaMask, and at its core fundamentals, I mean, that's mostly you're secure, right? Like people don't have access to that. But then there's also like vulnerabilities, like don't click links. That's one of the core things you need to know. Don't click any links in Web3, in Discords, like unless
I got scammed multiple times because I guess I'm that's a whole nother story. But like it's just ridiculous. And I was really early. Like I was mining my own Bitcoin back in 2013. I had a Dell Inspiron, and we're like pumping out like one of those really old Dell laptops, and on average, I get 1 full Bitcoin a day. And it was like, well, what am I going to do with it? It's like worth $0.0001 or something, just like whatever. And it was just a game for me. I was just like techie, nerdy stuff. And then I started building my own ASIC servers, and then something happened. Someone stole all my stuff. It was
you're deeper than me, bro. You're crazy.
Earlier, maybe not deeper.
Yeah, I never mind.
But that Dell Inspiron was just running in the background, fans on full blast the whole time.
Man, that's cool.
1 Bitcoin a day and going for like a good 6 months, man.
Wow. That is crazy.
And you lost them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that someone tricked me out of it. I wouldn't say I lost it. Like, okay. I think that by now the listeners are gonna be like, Ken, if you don't tell the story,
yeah, you'll open my
fuck
mouth.
you, right? so I can't remember the exact dates, but what happened was I'd accumulated and at that point it was at around $100 or so, right? I accumulated enough so I had $8,000. That's like, I guess, 80 Bitcoin, which right now would be like ridiculous to talk. But for me, it was all house money because I never put cash into it. So I didn't really respect it like I should. So I had been mining the coins, and I used Bitcoin to buy an upgraded server. And one of these ASIC servers with all the floating point calculations, it was by a company called Butterfly at the time. And they had this long waiting line. And by the time I was going to get it, it was going to be, like kind of obsolete because they had like a 6-month waiting list. And then one of their staff who somehow hacked their account, he said, hey, I could get you further in line, closer in line, and I'll make sure that happens. So I transferred the ownership of the waiting list to him, and he paid him some money. He sends me, I get this thing in the mail. It's a big, huge box, and it's heavy. I open it, and it's just full of copy paper, like A4 paper. And I was so pissed. And so I had spent all my Bitcoin with him, which was like 80 Bitcoin worth $8,000 at the time. And he sent me nothing. And I was just like, well, that was a stupid game to play. I'm out. And then And then I just didn't pick up on it again. I was just like, I just wasted a bunch of time. I didn't even think like 80 Bitcoin is going to be what, when it was, right now it's like 40,000, right? Or 30 something thousand each. And that would have been a very different number. So that was the first time I got scammed. And then a couple other times I did. So it's definitely the Wild West, and I can't go tell the Japanese police, hey, this guy stole money from me and lied to me. Like, it's just, especially way back then. Okay, I got a couple questions. Are you cool with that? Did you have something you wanted to share before I jump into the audience questions?
I think we're good. And just say, be safe in Web3,
Be safe, live free.
Web3.
That's a good
in
motto.
Web3.
Oh, be safe, live free, Web3.
I don't think really. I was saying
That should be your t-shirt slogan. Be
safe.
safe, be free, Web3.
Web3. That's cool.
That's cool.
Okay, Jeremy, one of our listeners, just asked, what are your thoughts on the efforts of the banking elites to control and centralize power, including introduction of a central digital currency, which appears to be in direct opposition to the main incentives for the use and expansion of Web3, blockchain tech, smart contracts, and decentralized transparency of ownership and use?
Yeah.
I think we covered this earlier, but maybe more specific to him. Is there anything?
I mean, that's a deep underlying question, right? Like I said, it's unpopular. I mean, in America, right, we're going to experience regulation. It's already, and I agree, the banking cartel, they're already doing the thing with their ISO 22 tokens, 2020 tokens. Yeah, who knows, really? Because the main purpose of it is the decentralization. I think the technology in itself and its core, right, like will be beneficial, right? So you got to think of the banking component, which is the monetary component, and then the technology component. Yeah, they're interweaved right now, right? Like, because you have every technology has a token and all of that, depending on what happens in America, right? Because corporate America rules technically the world because they rule the banking and they rule the politics, all of that. Yeah, that's the complex question we're facing. Like, is it because in a true decentralized world, we're expecting um, no, back to Katya's point, no control or censorship, right? Is that even feasible or possible, right? Because humans at their true nature, right? Are they all, if we all lived out of love and from our hearts, right? And maybe it is possible if the programming changes and the narrative changes and we're uplifting people instead of depressing people through content and media on the mainstream news channels, right? The global consciousness level, like most of it's negative programming here, fate, like for fear and hate, right? All of that stuff. Now I'm getting esoteric, but overall, that's the big macro question, right? So decentralization, I think decentralized monetary policy would be very beneficial because it's very centralized and controlled by a global select few. Will it ever happen? That's the key question of this planet, right? I mean, you got the oil conglomerates, you got, banking conglomerates, it's all around monetary policy. And do you think they're going to give up their power for decentralization? It's very unlikely. Is the technology part component of Web3, the technology component that allows this trustless, permissionless lifestyle? That's possible, I would say. I mean, because people are demanding for it and people pay with their dollars. And when people pay with their dollars, that's what creates technology and what people use. So, yeah, that's the key question.
So I got one question for Katya and then one more for Don here. For Katya, question from one of our viewers. They're asking, vertical short form video content makes up 80% of consumed data on mobile phones. This is a trend that's likely to continue, but what do you think are some of the future trends with content creation? Especially and if it has any overlap with Web3.
Very interesting question. Well, I think vertical is going to stay here as long as this is the shape of our phones, right? If it's going to change to something drastically different, then the format is going to change. But I think for as long as we have these devices, that's the format of video content that is going to be mostly used and consumed. But I think coming to Web3 is when we're going to have metaverse, and when metaverse is going to be something more accessible for people. Maybe there's going to be a social media platform within that metaverse when with those Oculus glasses we're going to be able to interact with each other. And so 360 videos, I think that's going to be the future of content when it comes to integrating it with Web3 and metaverse. And that's really cool and kind of scary at the same time, because that's going to be very seducing to just stay in, and because it's going to be super engaging and stimulating.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And I think I want to add to that, vertical short form content, it is here. And I think, there's just a lot of speculation about if the US is going to shut down TikTok in the US, for example, or not, or overregulate it so that they can't compete. And what I would say to someone is, don't get so stuck on the vertical format content or square or wide. I think that as long as people understand deeply what your audience is frustrations and pains are, what their dreams and desires are, and you keep making your content about that, then regardless of the format, whether it's VR, YouTube, VHS cassette tapes, or vertical short form content, you're going to be okay because you understand it and you just adapt it to the format that that person is most likely to see. And human to human connection is never going away as long as we're still humans. Until the AI bots take over and there's no humans left and they kill
They're
us
already
off.
here, bro.
Oh
They're already
my
here.
God!
They're among
Well,
us.
what figuratively killing us off, I was talking to a friend of mine who owns a digital marketing agency, and what he did, and with the advent of ChatGPT, there was a lot of writers. And he said, guys, I want to give you a week to study this, learn it, get the best you can out of it. And then at the end of the week, we're going to do a test. And he actually gave them an assignment. They all sat down and they had a start and the end. And the people who learn how to use AI by mastering the prompts to get the highest quality content stayed. The people who couldn't use it and only thought of themselves as people who can just take instructions and not really create or adapt to this, they left. They had to leave. And he cut down his workforce by 75%. Everybody else got a raise. So it's killing jobs for people who can't adapt. So if anything, everything is about adapting. And it just didn't make sense for him to keep. He could get twice as much work done with 1/4 of the players. So of course they got a raise, right? Okay, last question from our audience. What are the implications? And this might be for Don. Either of you can answer. What are the implications for smart contracts for customers to resell products they've purchased, to reclaim their investment in courses, but still ensure percentage divided is allocated to the course creator? Can you speak into what types of blockchain will be used for course creators and masterminds, etc.?
Can you repeat there's a little...
Sorry, did it cut off?
The initial part. Yeah, could you repeat that?
What are the implications for smart contracts for customers to resell products they've purchased, to reclaim investment in courses, but still ensure that a percentage divided is allocated to the course creator?
Okay, so yeah, they're basically assuming that, okay, you get an investment for, or like let's say a token for access to your info product. So a client buys your info product, they get a token, they get access, if that's resellable. So you don't have to allow this token to be resellable. So, but you can allow it to be resellable. Let's say you want them to get access to the mastermind or the info product, etc. Because right now infos, right, like one person can share the login to however many people, right? Well, if you just have one token, that also prevents that shareability, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. Less people watching your content, but more people that paid, or more people that paid and less people, you know what I mean? Like that dynamic's interesting to think about. But yeah, it's very easy to code in the smart contract. Okay, if this NFT is sold, or this, we call it NFT, but you think of NFT as like a picture or something like that, but it's non-fungible, token, right? So it's not necessarily, yeah, it's just access. So think about it as just technology. So if it's sold baked in the smart contract, every time that's sold, you can go on OpenSea. Every time like a Bored Ape is sold, for example, they get 5% of every sale, right? So you can do the same thing for yours. That's the cool thing about trustless and permissionless, and the power of blockchain technology. You don't have to go chasing these dollars. It automatically happens. It's guaranteed. It's 100%, right? So that's where I do believe it's going to be powerful in info in that sense, for a few different reasons. Because if someone doesn't okay, they got what they needed out of your course. Now it's not like a dead asset. It would make it more of a challenge on the content creators if they were allowing an open free market for it, because now,
Right.
based on the value of your
Now
content,
the scarcity is not controlled by you. It's controlled by anybody who has it.
Yeah.
Is there a way you could make it increase in value or decrease in value over time?
I guess it would depend on the value, right? Like how much,
Yeah.
like it adds more responsibility on the creator to keep adding value, keep adding,
Yeah.
making sure the product is indispensable. So like, if that gives you
No, what
access
I
to
mean by
like,
that is like the individual tokens. Let's say that, when someone buys a course, it's the equivalent of $1,000, right?
right.
But then is there a way to make it a timed thing so that, okay, well, if you raise your core price, could you force them to sell it at a certain price, control the price, or is that not
Well,
not on the table with
you
technology?
can't force, so in a free market, right? You can force
Yeah.
non-tradable stuff.
Yep. The word force and free market, they kind of go against each other, don't they?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So the when you have the or when you integrate the NFT or the technology now, and if you open it up and allow for trading, now the market decides the price, right?
Yeah.
And that would depend on, there's a lot of different factors that depends on it.
It's like Tower Records all over again. I used to go there, buy CDs, and then when I was bored, I'd sell it on eBay, Well, it's a Japanese version of eBay.
Yeah, yeah. So in theory, like it definitely makes more sense for info products, but I think initially it should be non-tradable because it adds another level for the content creator, right? So, you're not worrying about an asset that's fluctuating in price. You're not worrying about that. It's like, okay, this is a non-tradable technology, but now you're able to utilize this blockchain technology. Um, you know, Technically it could be traded if you like were willing to give up your wallet, but like that's more gray. But
Now we've run a little bit over time, but I want to just ask one last question. Are you okay with that?
sure.
Okay. The last question is from Sohan Gokar. Question for Don. He says, how do you see the impact of the current cryptocurrencies with Biden bucks or digital dollars that is due to come out soon, either this year or next year for sure? Should people back themselves up with gold and silver?
I mean, there's two arguments here, right? I mean, you're seeing all these other countries having their digital currency backed by gold or commodity-backed assets, right? So if you look, I don't know if you've looked into BRICS, so it's like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Saudi Arabia. Those are all like huge countries, right? And I think they make up of like 40% of the world GDP or something like that. They're all saying asset-backed, gold-backed digital currencies. U.S. is not saying that. So I don't know. I don't know if you go out and run and get gold, if that. So the issue with gold, right? Like, when are you gonna ever show up to a store and be like, "Hey, take my gold"? I mean, maybe I don't know. At that point, like the whole U.S. monetary system has collapsed, and you have bigger problems. So it's like, okay, what kind of assets do we want to have? And we're seeing things that everything is going digital, right? So maybe finding ways to get different currencies that are part of that. If you're trying to hedge your bets, right? So you want to have, it sounds like a rainy day fund or something like that. Probably hedge your bets in other countries, hedge your bets in, like francs, Swiss francs, and really good currency they've proven to be really good currency over decades, right? Stuff like that. I mean, gold, yeah. I mean, don't put your whole net worth in it. It's good to have some good silver, right? Like, look at the technologies that are approved. So look at I'm not going to recommend, this is not financial advice, buying any of this stuff. I'm just spitballing what I would consider. These ISO 2022 currencies, I mean, who really knows what happens, but if XRP does win the lawsuit and they do take over the SWIFT banking system, like it's a thing about XRP, it's deflationary. So every time it's used, there's less, right? So, and if everyone's using it, it's going to blow up, right? So I don't have an answer for that. I wish I had all of the answers, but just hedge your risk. I mean, if you think about the world economy and the way the world is, I mean, we've printed ungodly amounts of U.S. dollars. There's no actual backing other than all of this. And if you think about derivative banking, like they're able, each dollar you give the bank, they're able to print 9. So if they have 9 times the amount of dollars that are in the bank already, and then now they're funneling these to other countries, right? So China has a similar banking system where they can funnel. So now you put $1 in, they've taken a loan on the $1, these banks, and now they're putting 9 times into China's banks, and they're doing 9 times over there. Do you see how it's all like Fugazi and like air stuff, right? So it's like it's an interesting dynamic we're in right now.
It's extremely speculative right now, everything,
Yeah.
right? Because one politician or lawmaker
Yeah.
or SBF could wake up on a bad day and change the whole market just by making a statement, a policy, a bad business decision. It's just it's very, very speculative.
Yeah.
But I love your input on that.
It's dynamic. You just got to be, you
It
got to
is,
be
it is.
nimble. You got to be willing to take action quick. I think that's the people that succeed most, right? Like things are happening, trends are happening. You see things happen, take action. Like at least have a safety net, right? Like, you know, that's
Absolutely. Now, Don, I've got to wrap this up.
yeah.
If any of the listeners, first of all, they want to get in touch, I'm going to go ladies first. Katya, if somebody wants to learn from you or get help from you on a like consulting basis, what's the best way for people to find you?
Probably my Instagram,
Okay. And your Instagram handle is?
Molochinka. I will spell it.
Okay, spell it out, and then we'll put it into the comment below.
Yeah, MOLODCHINKA.
Okay, that's Katya.
You want to
And Don, if somebody wants to learn from you deeper things and geek out on what you do and potentially hire you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach out. My Instagram's Don Hayley. Make sure you have the Y. So DONHAYLEY. Instagram. Yeah, reach out there. That's probably the best place to reach me. And then, yeah, anything else, Ken? You can always reach out to Ken. He has my contact information.
Yes. Cell phone costs $10,000. Email is $500. And
Exactly.
home address, $20,000.
Business savvy.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I got to admit, this has been the most technical interview I've had on this show so far.
Wow.
And I was wondering for a second, I was just like, gosh, is my audience going to resound? But from all the questions I'm getting and the engagement, I'm just like, my audience loves this. They're eating this up. So I just want to personally thank you. Guys, thank you so much for watching to the end or listening to the end if you're on Spotify or podcast. What that tells me is that there was something about this that was valuable, you enjoyed, and I produce this stuff for free. The only payment I ask is that you share this and give it as many stars as you feel it deserves, which is, of course, 5. That's it for now. Check the show notes down below, and I'll see you next time. Don, Katya, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
and I'll see
brother.
you again soon.